Husband's friends came in my house and what we did together is shocking. It started on a rainy Friday evening, one of those nights when silence isn't peaceful but haunting. The walls echoed with memories of laughter, passion, and comfort, all of which had started to fade in the absence of his presence. He'd been distant lately, emotionally and physically, and I'd begun to feel like a guest in my own marriage. The bed we once shared felt colder, his side untouched more often than not. I told myself it was work, that the stress had taken over, but deep down, my heart whispered a different truth, a truth I wasn't ready to face. That night, while I lay curled on the couch with a blanket around my legs, I heard the doorbell ring. Confused, I got up and opened it to find two of his close friends standing there, rain dripping from their hair, each wearing a mischievous grin. They said they were in the neighborhood, that he told them they could drop by if he wasn't home. My heart jumped slightly at the mention of his name. It had been days since we even spoke properly. I hesitated but let them in, convincing myself it was harmless. The house quickly filled with warmth and noise. The sound of male laughter, the way they spread themselves across the space, brought a strange comfort. I made drinks, brought snacks, and tried to distract my heart from the loneliness that had slowly drowned me. We talked, laughed about old stories, and even reminisced about my husband. How different he used to be. How alive he was before something inside him changed. They noticed the sadness in my eyes. One of them, bolder than the other, gently brushed my hair away from my face and asked if I was okay. That single touch sent chills through my skin. I looked at him for a moment too long, then looked away. The silence between us stretched longer than it should have. I excused myself, saying I needed to grab more ice from the kitchen. But as I walked away, I could feel both of their eyes on me, not in a creepy way, but in a way I hadn't felt in a long time. Desired, noticed, wanted. In the kitchen, I leaned against the counter, breathing deeply, trying to understand what was happening to me. The weight of being emotionally ignored for months, the quiet pain of being unloved, was bubbling under the surface. I heard footsteps behind me, and before I turned, I knew who it was. He leaned beside me, close enough that our shoulders touched. "You deserve more than silence," he said softly. "You look like you're always waiting for something that never comes." I didn't respond. My eyes were fixed on the counter. Then, without warning, his fingers touched my hand, gently tracing the top of it. I should have pulled away, but I didn't. The heat between us grew quickly, and I was drowning in the guilt of feeling something for someone other than my husband, but also alive in a way I hadn't felt in years. He leaned in closer, his lips brushing my ear. "You're beautiful, and it kills me to see you forgotten like this." Before I could process the moment, his lips were on mine, soft, slow, and filled with a kind of hunger that wasn't just physical. It was a kiss that begged to be noticed, one that pulled me into a dangerous desire. My body responded before my mind could stop it. Our kiss deepened, his hand sliding along my waist, gripping me with a need that felt both terrifying and thrilling. We pulled apart when the other friend walked in, but he stopped in his tracks, reading the air instantly. Instead of reacting with anger or confusion, he gave a knowing smirk. "Looks like I came at the wrong time, or maybe the right one," he said playfully. Shame flooded my face, but strangely, it was followed by a wave of arousal. The tension between the three of us shifted. Something unspoken passed in the air. They exchanged a look, then looked at me as if silently asking whether the night could turn into something more. My heart pounded, my breath quickened. I should have said no. I should have asked them to leave. But instead I turned around, back to the counter, pretending to grab something while hiding my burning face. I didn't stop them when one of them stepped behind me, his hands resting lightly on my hips. I didn't move when the other leaned in from the side, his fingers lifting my chin. "You've been broken long enough," one of them whispered. "Let us remind you how it feels to be worshipped." My lips trembled, and the only sound I made was a soft exhale. The rest of the night unfolded like a dream soaked in heat and confusion. Their touches were slow at first, one tracing down my spine while the other placed kisses along my shoulder. They handled me like a treasure too long locked away. Each movement deliberate, each whisper calculated to stir the parts of me that had been numb. There were kisses along my neck that made me shiver, fingers that explored my body with reverence and hunger, and voices that whispered things my husband hadn't said in years. The living room became a stage for chaos and craving. They lifted me onto the couch, their hands pulling my shirt over my head, mouths taking turns claiming the skin beneath. I moaned softly as one kissed down my chest while the other tugged at the waistband of my leggings. I should have felt guilty, ashamed, even scared, but all I felt was raw, unfiltered need. They weren't just taking my body. They were breathing life back into it. The kisses grew deeper, wetter. Their hands roamed with confidence. One of them slipped between my legs, fingers teasing my inner thighs, lips still locked with mine. The other traced a line down my stomach with his tongue, sending heat pulsing through me. I arched into them, gasping as their touches became more synchronized, more possessive. Their voices became a mix of hot whispers and sinful promises. "You're ours tonight. Let go. Let us have you the way he never did." They said all the things I didn't know I craved to hear. My body was melting under them, every nerve alive with pleasure, pain, confusion, and broken joy. Hours passed in that room, sheets tangled, breaths heavy, bodies glistening. There were moments I was pinned between them, moaning into one's mouth while the other explored the deepest parts of me. There were times when I cried, not from pain but from the overwhelming mixture of sorrow and pleasure. I had given myself to them, fully, shamelessly, because I needed to feel something. Anything. And they gave it to me. But when the sun began to rise and the first light of morning touched the windows, the air changed. They held me for a while, their touches now softer, almost protective. I didn't speak. Neither did they. We all knew the night would never be spoken of again. It had been a moment of madness, lust, and escape. When they left, I stood alone in the doorway, hair messy, lips swollen, body aching in places that had long been ignored. But it wasn't just physical. Inside I felt cracked wide open. I didn't know whether I was liberated or ruined. I didn't know whether to hate myself or thank them. Then, just before they drove off, one of them leaned out the window and said something that would haunt me forever. "You think your husband doesn't know. That night was his idea." My blood ran cold. My knees buckled, and the weight of their words slammed into me like a truck. The words echoed in my head like thunder cracking open a clear sky. "You think your husband doesn't know. That night was his idea." I stood frozen at the door, eyes wide, skin crawling with confusion and betrayal. The engine of their car faded into the distance, but the chaos in my mind roared louder with every second. My knees trembled, my heart beat erratically. A dull ache settled in my chest, not from the night of raw pleasure, but from the brutal unraveling of what I thought I knew. I stumbled back inside, dropping onto the couch where only hours earlier my body had been worshipped, touched, taken. Now all I could feel was violated, not by them but by the truth. Was I set up? Used? Had my husband really orchestrated the entire night? Did he want to humiliate me or test me? Was it revenge? Some sick fantasy? Tears welled up as guilt and shame came crashing in waves. I curled into myself, clutching the throw blanket around my naked shoulders, as if it could shield me from the storm of thoughts threatening to drown me. My body was sore, but my heart was shattered. And then my phone buzzed. One new message. From him. "Hope you enjoyed yourself. I've got everything I need now." My breath caught. My fingers trembled as I read it again. It was short, cold, calculated. I wanted to scream. I wanted to break something. Instead, I collapsed against the wall, sobbing uncontrollably. It wasn't just betrayal. It was manipulation, violation, cruelty wrapped in silence. He knew. He planned it. He let them touch me, take me, and record it. For what? Evidence. A game. Control. I didn't reply. Couldn't. My mind spiraled into memories of the past few months. His absence, the coldness in bed, the secretive calls, the way he started locking his phone. I thought he was cheating. I thought he didn't love me anymore. And now I realized, maybe he wasn't cheating. Maybe he was planning all along to break me down. I didn't sleep that night. My body ached from every angle, but it wasn't physical pain that kept me awake. It was the silence. The silence between what I felt and what had really happened. I replayed every kiss, every whisper, every moan from the night before, now twisted with the knowledge that it had been a setup. The next morning, I dressed slowly and left the house. I needed answers. Closure. Something. I drove without a plan, hands shaking on the wheel. I didn't know where I was going until I parked in front of one of his friends' houses. The one who had kissed me first. He opened the door and froze when he saw me. His face dropped, not in guilt but in panic. "What are you doing here?" he asked quietly. I pushed past him into the house. "Why did you say that last night? About him knowing? About it being his idea?" He didn't deny it. He looked down ashamed. "It wasn't supposed to go that far. He wanted to see if you would break. He told us to flirt. To test you." My stomach turned. "And the rest?" He hesitated. "We got caught in it too. It wasn't acting anymore. Swear. We didn't plan to. But the way you responded, the way you looked, we thought you needed it. Wanted it." I laughed bitterly, tears in my eyes. "So you took me. Used me. For what? To prove I'm weak. To prove I'm no better than him." He stepped forward, his face softer now. "No. Swear. I never meant to hurt you. Care about you. We both do. But it started out as something else. And now? Now what? Spat. You're guilty. You feel something." He looked down again. He recorded everything. There were cameras. In the living room. He wanted to use it against you. I felt like I couldn't breathe. My vision blurred. My knees gave out again, and this time he caught me before I fell. But I pushed him away violently. "I gave you my body. You gave me betrayal." I stormed out, numb, dead inside. I didn't cry. I couldn't anymore. I drove straight to the house. Not to confront my husband, but to burn the last threads of whatever was left between us. But when I walked in, he was already waiting, sitting on the couch with a smirk that broke my soul. "Well," he said coldly, "looks like you're everything I thought you were." I clenched my fists, trembling. "You did this to me. You drove me to this. You ignored me for months. Made me feel invisible." He stood towering, voice low. "And you proved I was right. Or weak. You gave in." My voice cracked. "You destroyed me. You used your friends to hurt me. And you'll pay for that." He laughed darkly. "Pay? You already did. You gave me all the evidence I need." I stared at him. "For what?" He walked toward me, dropping a folder on the table. "Divorce. Infidelity. Everything caught on tape. You'll get nothing." My knees buckled again, but this time I caught myself. I stared at him, eyes empty. "You think this is over? You think I'll just fade?" He leaned in close, voice venomous. "You're done." And that's when I smiled. Because he didn't know what I had already done. Earlier that morning, between heartbreak and rage, I had remembered something. The location of our home's backup server. A storage unit he used to hide financial records, emails, messages, and videos. I had gone there first before anything else. And I'd seen everything. Not just the footage of me, but messages between him and a woman. Dozens of videos. Intimate ones. Ones where he wasn't exactly the loyal husband he pretended to be. I had it all. "I may have fallen," I whispered to him. "But you fell first. And I'm just getting started." His smirk disappeared. I turned and walked out of the house, head high, heart shattered, but fire burning in my veins. 3 weeks later, the court date arrived. He sat with his lawyer, confident, cocky, certain that the evidence against me would end the marriage in his favor. But as the judge opened the file I had submitted the day before, everything changed. His affairs, his threats, his setup, his blackmail. The judge turned to him, eyes cold. "You set her up. You orchestrated emotional and sexual manipulation. And you cheated first. He stuttered. His lawyer panicked. I sat in silence, watching his world burn like mine once had. In the end, I didn't just win the case. I walked away with everything. The house, the assets, my name cleared. His name ruined. He had nothing left but shame. As I walked out of the courtroom, I felt the sun on my skin for the first time in months. Really felt it. I had been broken, used, betrayed. But I survived. I rose. And no matter how hot, sinful, or painful that night had been, it had led me to the truth. He thought he broke me. But he only rebuilt me. And as I walked into the next chapter of my life, I left behind the woman who waited in silence. And stepped into the fire of a woman who would never be silenced again.